Now that the Bengals sit at an 0-2 record to start the year, how concerned are you with the Bengals moving forward?
Bro, look, everybody here, look at me. If you're a Bengals fan, I am so sorry. Granted, I got shut out by the fucking Jaguars today, so I have really no room to talk. That offensive line needs to be they need to run gassers, they need to run hills, they need to be stripped away of all of their human rights at this point. They played horrible. There's no justification for it. There's no excuse. You guys suck. You absolutely suck. There is no happy medium. You are playing so poorly that this man, Joe Burrow, is running for his life week in and week out. We have only played official football for 2 weeks, and Joe Burrow has been sacked 13 times. Is do you want him to die? Do you want to win games? You're all millionaires. You're professional athletes. You are a starting offensive lineman for a professional franchise in the National Football League, and you can't even do your job. Joe Burrow needs to look at them and be like, bro, I don't even want to play with you. Pull a Jimmy Butler, get the second string in, fuck it, get the third string in. If I'm Joe Burrow, you know how quarterbacks are always doing Christmas presents for their offensive linemen? Bro, I'm not giving you a damn thing. And what I'm going to give you is a how to block book, how to be a lineman book. I'm going to give you the playbook again, and I'm going to circle protect. I don't understand, bro. To me, it makes no sense. We both thought, as well as a lot of other people in this business, the acquisition of the 3 offensive linemen that they acquired this offseason was going to do the complete opposite of this, was going to minimize Joe Burrow being on his back, was going to minimize the pressure. And the opposite happened. Granted, he was able to carry them back into this game, thank God. And they were able to score 14 points in the second half. And Cincinnati's defense stepped up and limited Dallas to 3, but it wasn't enough. I don't understand. The defense was gassed at the end of the game because it was just Cooper Rush was just finding holes in the defense. Dalton Schultz, obviously CeeDee Lamb, and a couple of other plays. But overall, man, this is 100% on the offensive line. Joe Burrow had no turnovers. Michael Parsons was in that backfield the whole game. This needs to be corrected because if this continues, Joe Burrow's not going to make it the rest of the year. Bro, I'm not wishing injury, knock on wood. Kyle and I both know this is going to end in him tearing an ACL, breaking a bone. He's going to get a concussion or worse. Bro, he looks like he's running to literally survive. I cannot comprehend it. Cooper Rush played a great game, 235 yards and a touchdown. Didn't do anything crazy, but did enough just to win. The running game in Dallas got over 100 yards on the ground. So again, kudos to the organization for putting a well-balanced offense around the team to actually, mold to Cooper Rush's talents. And then obviously, again, Dallas's defense in the first half, flawless. 3 points. Second half, not so much. Again, Joe Burrow was able to dissect and do what he needed to do at the end of the game. But man, the run game hasn't been able to do anything. The passing game takes way too long to get into a rhythm, which usually in the last 2 weeks has been in the second half of the game and most times fourth quarter. There's no more excuses. I've run out. I'm not even a Bengals fan, and I'm livid, bro. Do you know how frustrating it is to see Joe Burrow literally get the ball in the shotgun and immediately start to say, "I have no where am I supposed to go?" He's getting it from all angles. And whoever the offensive line coach for Cincinnati needs to be fired. It needs to be fired immediately. You're going to line up with Micah Parsons in single coverage. Kyle and I were talking about this later on my way home from my girl's uncle's house. There was no scheme to protect Joe. There was no tight end. There was no running back chip. There was no wide receiver. There was no double team. It was, we're good enough to block Micah Parsons. He tortured Tom Brady last week, probably the best quarterback in football. What on earth makes you think that he's not going to annihilate the weakest offensive line in the league? And tell me how that makes sense. How is it the Chicago Bears have less sacks allowed, and they're a way worse team than the Bengals? And they have a win. They don't fix this. This is going to get out of hand quick. And, again, I don't wish injury. Joe Burrow is going to get hurt if this doesn't change immediately.
You know what's kind of interesting about this whole Bengals situation now that they're 0-2 is it actually puts people like us, I'm talking about like in the media profession, it makes us actually look at the real issues that's going on with the Bengals. Because a lot of times, and I think it just kind of comes with the territory, we focus on the stars. We focus on the glitz and the glamour that comes with these performances within these games. Now you actually get to see the heartbeat of the team, especially in the offense. And it is the offensive line. There's no other way to say it. Without an offensive line, you don't have those highlight plays. You don't have quarterbacks that are throwing 3, 4, 500 yards, in each individual game. You don't have that. If you don't have an offensive line to protect you, there's no offense. And this isn't 7v7. It's 11 versus 11. And right now, the way that I see it is the Bengals offensive line is failing not only Joe Burrow, they're failing their team. And it's shameful as far as I'm concerned. I'm looking at the 5 linemen right now. You got Jonah Williams, Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Lael Collins. Like Kevin just alluded to, they went out in free agency and picked up Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Lael Collins to rebuild and bolster up this offensive line. Mind you, when we look at the Bengals from last year with their offensive line, there's only one returning starter from that Super Bowl team. Everybody else is a new face in a new position. And the fact of the matter is, I think they've actually gotten worse so far. Within the first 2 weeks, like Kevin said, 13 sacks is unacceptable. And not only that, the Bengals, I believe, are the first team in NFL history to come off a Super Bowl appearance and going into the next year, lose to 2 teams where they were the 7-point favorite. Because the Bengals just lost to Cooper Rush and Mitchell Trubisky in the first 2 weeks. That's insane. The Bengals are one of the best teams in the AFC. And look what happens when you have no offensive line to protect your biggest asset in Joe Burrow. You get basically what I would call gutter performances. They scored 20 points against the Steelers. The Steelers just lost to the Patriots, and the Patriots have their own issues as well. And then they just lost to the Cowboys, who are playing up against a backup with Dak Prescott out 6 to 8 weeks because of a broken thumb. These are the type of games that make us focus on the trenches. This is where you win and lose games, at the line of scrimmage. And these offensive linemen are failing their team. The fact that Dallas got 6 sacks is insane. It's like they didn't even learn anything from the week before against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had 7. And then you go out the next week and you give up 6. Kevin, you're 100% right. Whoever is this offensive line coach or whoever is working the offensive lineman in practice Monday through Saturday, their job needs to be on the hot seat moving forward, because this is just insane. And mind you, I used to play high school football as a lineman, and I understand the importance that comes along with being a lineman. I mean, it's utterly crucial to have a tip-top line to protect your quarterback and also to open up run lanes for your running backs. And these guys are failing at every single level so far. Now, granted, it is week 2, and these guys are in positions where they're probably still learning the chemistry between each other. And I think the biggest thing moving forward is they're going to have to work on their communication, because their communication, the way that I see it, is these guys are just not hitting their protections right. And like you said, I think there also needs to be an adjustment when it comes to play calling and formation scheming, because there's no way that you could just let TJ Watt in week 1 and now Micah Parsons in week 2 just run roughshod over your offensive line and let Joe Burrow be the victim of that. So the Bengals got to look themselves in the mirror moving forward, because this is unacceptable for one of the best teams in the AFC to look utterly like trash in the first 2 weeks of the year. I do think they can counteract this and they can get it back together. But had you told me 2-3 weeks ago that the Bengals would have started 0-2 and they look like one of the worst offenses in the league, I would have thought that you were crazy. Well, after these 2 games, they kind of proved how bad they look when their offensive line is not up to snuff, and they got a lot to work on here. So, yeah, the Bengals are in a bad spot right now. Granted, like you said, give the Cowboys credit. The Cowboys came to play today, especially the defense. You know, the whole Joe Burrow in that offense of 17 points, good on them. And especially when it comes to their pass rush, because their pass rush was on point. And Cooper Rush did enough to get them in position to get the game-winning field goal, to get them back to 1-1. But yeah, when it comes to the Bengals are in a little bit of trouble right now. But I do think that if they can fix the chemistry issues on the offensive line and maybe fix the communication and formation schemes, I do think that Cincinnati can bounce back. That's just how I see it.